Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to another episode of Open for Discussion. I'm your boy, C. Maurice Ball, and I am truly excited about the young lady that I have on here today. She is a phenomenal mom, an amazing wife, an awesome woman of God. She's out here changing her local community. She's an advocate. She is doing big things out here in all sectors with young people, with old people. She's doing what she's doing. She is an expert in what she do, and I'm glad that she is on today to talk to us. But before we get to that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button that's going to be showing down here, and kick that intro. Well. I am introducing to some and present to others this amazing woman of God right here, Miss April Starks. How are you today?
I am well. Now that intro, that gets you going
All
right
right,
there.
we can get the club turned up in here. Throw some speakers in here, get the lights twirling.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah,
Love it. Love it. That's the way to get it started, to get the conversation going.
I appreciate that. I'm intentional about the music I select because music plays a lot in how we move
That's
and
right.
how we get down. So, how are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good today. It's a great day, productive day. We're gonna get some things completed on our list. Being intentional. When I
Being
started,
intentional.
yeah, being intentional. When I started this year, the key word for me was discipline.
Mm,
And
okay.
so each day I'm striving to be very disciplined with my time, how I utilize it, where I exert my energies and my focus. So today's going to be an awesome day. So setting the intention at the top of the day and carrying it through, like it's discipline.
Okay. So, speaking of that, like, was that something? Oh, excuse me. Was that something like growing up that you didn't really, give a lot of attention to? Is the discipline?
I think what happened for me, my grandfather drilled in me discipline. As a teenager, he would wake me up early in the morning, make sure I cut the grass. I mean, all kinds of stuff he had me doing, painting. They had a garden. So I think it started then with him putting those principles strongly within me. But I'll tell you what, when you start having kids and being focused on your family and things like that, your discipline kind of gets off balance. And I think that's where I found myself, just not as focused on certain things that dealt with what I wanted to do or was supposed to do. Um,
Uh-huh.
well, this year was the year that it was like, no, get back on point. I'm not getting younger, I'm getting older. So even some disciplinary things with some transitions, my mind tells me I'm still 23.
Right. Right.
My body's like, no. So I even had to change my mindset with some discipline things as far as health, um, a lot of areas, just that transition and being locked in a little better.
Okay. So,
Mhm.
so you said you raised by your grandparents?
Well, my mom had me when she was 16.
Okay.
So very young, but a family of eight. She had seven siblings, so it was eight of them total. And the nest was real for me. The nest took care of me. And my grandparents were an integral part of that to ensure that my mom finished high school and we worked together as a team, as a family. So I did spend a lot of time with my grandparents. So it was like they raised me. I did call them mom and dad. Um, so yeah,
Okay.
bonus
Are you
piece.
the youngest, the oldest, the only, the middle child? Where you fall at in that line of siblings?
So it's just me and my brother, and I'm the oldest. So
Were
my
you a good big sister?
I think so. I think I am.
I'm saying when you were younger, when y'all were younger, were you a good big sister?
Well,
And
now
what's
that
the
you
age?
put it
And
like
what's
that,
the age gap?
It's good you put it like that. When I was younger, probably not.
Okay.
There's about an 8-year gap between us. So when my brother came along, I was pretty selfish. I was mad. My mom would tell me stories. I don't fully remember all of them, but she would tell me, like, even when he came home from the hospital, I didn't want to hold him because I was mad. Like, I don't want a sibling. Like, I was spoiled and
Yeah.
yeah. So I
So
was probably a little rude at first.
8 years is a huge gap. So you were 8 years the only child.
Yes.
So that comes with a certain level of access, a certain level of expectancy, a certain level of attention, and
Yes.
then
That's
when it's no
all the
longer
mom
about you,
attention.
it's the issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was rough at first. I was probably a little mean to my brother at first, but I feel like I'm a good big sister.
And we all grow.
We
I,
grow.
'Cause
We grow.
if I was to put my older sister on a scale, oh, she was terrible. she, she was a bully. She used to bully us and beat us up and take our candy and tell us if we told on her we would get in trouble. She would beat us up, and I mean, because she was home before our parents were. So and then when my parents separated, I ended up living with my dad. So
Mhm.
I became an only child. So
Okay.
yeah, I I get it.
So you feel that, but she was running the house though, right?
Oh, she was
Before
running.
they was home.
Oh, she was innocent. Everything that broke in the house was us. We was always we was
That's how it
always
goes.
me and my middle sister, we was always in trouble. She would do stuff and we would just be the scapegoat and couldn't say
Yeah.
nothing. She would sit us down on the porch and she would like, you tell mom and daddy, I'm gonna beat you up. Like, it's me. So
Right. It's rough. Yeah, that's rough.
I understand the life of having a sibling, and I also understand the life of being a only child. So it is and the youngest. So I'm the only boy, and I'm the youngest. And at one point, when living with my dad, I was the only child. So I get that. I get that. So when you were raised, where are you originally from? This area?
Yeah, so born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay.
And went off excuse me, went off to college in Danville, Kentucky at Center College. Enjoyed my time there. I always thought I would not come back to this area, to be honest. When I graduated from college, I always felt like I would be somewhere else. But lo and behold, the Lord had a purpose for me to come back to Louisville because every application, literally, that I applied for my senior year, I didn't get that job. And all of them were in other places, Ohio and Michigan, different places I was applying. Didn't work. So came back home and probably a year after graduation, met my husband at church. And we started to talk and date. And he's from Evansville, Indiana.
All
Went
right.
to the
Yeah.
University of Louisville. So that's how we met with him, being in Louisville, although he's from Evansville. When he went to college, he stayed in Louisville. And we chose New Albany, Indiana as our home to raise our children. I was not moving to Evansville.
Right.
Was
Get
not
it.
doing that. Um, so you heard me say I felt like I would never move back to this area, but Evansville was not on that list.
Believe me, I know
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Even though I love it, when we visit, I love it. The houses, everything have so much character, beautiful. But I just didn't want to live there, so we just chose right across the bridge from Louisville to raise our family, and it's been great. We've been in New Albany for 21 years. Our oldest is 22, and we moved over here right when he was about one.
It's a short story. I know this interview is about you.
No,
It's
I
just a short
want
story.
to. Uh-huh.
So when we were relocating from Alabama to up here, so I'm originally from Indianapolis, and I was like, God, I ain't never moving back to Indiana. Well,
Oh, you feel me, right?
100%, 100%. And so Evansville. So my wife's territory was Evansville was one of her spaces.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, if we move to Evansville, I'm going to die. I mean, because there's how I am. I'm from the city. I don't need to live in the city, but I need to be around the city.
Yes.
And Evansville, there's nothing city close to it other than what, St. Louis, a couple hours, and then Indy, a couple of more hours. No, I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
So I get the whole Evansville thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let me get out. I
Yeah,
had to went back there in
I
that
took you
space. Was
back.
like,
But that's good you knew yourself of like, "No, can't do it."
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't, and so I totally get when God, when you make a declaration to God that's opposed to His will, right?
Mhm.
He finds a way of being funny and putting you in that space. Because I told God I would never live in Alabama either, live there until we moved here.
Yeah.
So I learned to tell God what I'm not gonna do.
That's right. And then
So
just
so
go
you
go
are
with the flow.
you yeah you just rock with it. So you raised in Louisville. You have an older brother. So by the time you got to high school,
Excuse me.
you were really separated from him because he's 8 years younger. So by the time you was a freshman, he was just what, pre-K.
Oh,
So you kind of navigated high school and college. You were in college by the time he actually was older.
right about middle school, absolutely. Yep. So that did cause, a little bit of strain because I think, his adolescent years, I just wasn't really around.
Mhm.
Because when I went to college, even though it's only like an hour and a half away, like, I literally never came home.
Well,
I was loving, like, campus life and being away. If there was a break, I would try to travel or do something. So, we just had a span to where we didn't have as much connection because I wasn't in the home, anymore.
so your so that dynamic is a little crazy because
Mhm.
of the because of the space. So
Yeah,
I can see that later on, the later years, y'all probably grow closer because the age gap don't really make too much difference when you're 40 and he's 32. You
that's
know,
right.
so it makes it closes that gap. Now, you said your mom had you at 16,
Mhm.
which is which is young, but back then, not so. I mean, I think my mom had my sister at around my older sister around 16, 17.
Yeah.
So how was that how was that growing up, as far as your mom still trying to finish high school,
Mhm.
trying to get you in the right space? You said your village was tight, so you had your uncles and your aunties and your
Yes.
grandparents. So y'all were all close knit. That helped navigate you through high school, right?
Yes. Yes.
What was high school like for you?
Um, I think for even for my mom, like, to have the family that she had to help support along the way was significant, and my mom was a champ. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. That's a part of my journey as well, to lose my mom in, November of 2020, due to
Mm.
COVID, was difficult. And so I can't say that I'm fully even out of that, but I feel much better from it, growing through grief, basically. Um, but I always am very proud when I think about my mom because number one, I'm like, hey, mom, thank you. Like, you pushed through that thing. Like, you allowed me to be here in the earth, and she worked hard. My mom was a hard worker. She worked for Kroger for like 28 years. She was faithful, loyal. It was just all a part of her character, just a good person. When you think about customer service that she provided, that's what she loved to do, meeting people, loving on people, probably giving the best of herself, to others. And she did it joyously. I never recall having a need. Most of the time
Mm.
you think, someone young, they're going to struggle and it's going to be hard for them. I had a great childhood. Like, I don't recall a struggle. And she probably did very well, not allow me to be privy to that information. And so she's dear to me every day. So when I talk about her, I'm talking about me. You know that
Mm.
progressive commercial saying, you becoming your parents.
Yeah,
When I
yeah,
see certain things about myself, I'm like, that's cool. I'm okay with that, like becoming her, because those were honestly great traits and qualities. A woman of integrity, a lover of family, and so some of those, attributes of her, I want to walk out. I want to be her, when I grow up, because she paved a great example, for me. And so even, how the family supported her through processing and graduating successfully. And she was a hooper, played
really.
ball. Yes, she was a hooper. And this is an interesting story my aunts had told me. She hid being pregnant because it was the basketball season. So I was like, that's probably why I love basketball so much. Like,
Oh,
while
really?
I was in her womb, she was hooping.
Getting buckets.
Getting buckets on them, like, going hard, no hesitation. And she did it, sisters were telling me she played, the whole season, and then, of course, she started to show more and more, and, of course, she couldn't had it and had to, go ahead and come out and, not play, but she made it through the season.
That's impressive.
Yes,
That
yes,
to be pregnant and to go ahead and be out there getting buckets,
she was
falling on the
doing it.
floor, taking charges.
Mhm.
But mom sounded like she was a trooper.
She
That's
was,
that's
and I think
that
that's
is
indicative.
awesome.
Yeah, I think that's indicative of her life, just how she would press through things no matter what. That's just one great example right there. So I strive to do that, and I think it's honestly standing on the shoulders of her strength and my grandparents. Like I said, my grandparents were integral for me. Me getting through. I was the first grandchild, so that adds to your point of being spoiled and wanting all the
Absolutely.
attention. And when other people come along, I'm like, who are you? All of that came because I was the first grandchild and they just spoiled me and loved on me. Um, and that helped me throughout my high school, career. I played ball in high school too. And then going to college,
You was a hooper?
I was a hooper. Yes. Played for
Oh,
Central High School.
okay.
Louisville, Kentucky, played for Central High School, class of '93. Angelique Bailey, a phenomenal player there as well. So don't let me go back down memory lane. My mind,
Eh,
because it's March. Well, it's still March Madness because we finishing up. The Final Four, the men tonight, Final
yeah,
Four. Yeah, so my mind's all on basketball mode.
I am too. Um, definitely watched the watch. I didn't watch the second game, the UConn Iowa game.
What? You missed a good one.
I did not watch that one. But I, uh, we'll talk about that offline.
Okay.
But so you are a hooper, and you said something. I'm gonna go back to something that you said. You said that your mom you didn't have a struggle, right? That you didn't know. One of the best things parents could do is, and I'm gonna talk about my situation. Best thing that could happen is for your parents to not let you know that you're poor.
Mhm.
Like, we were poor, but I didn't know it because I had things. I lived like, our stories kind of similar, and I'm like, I didn't know. I I didn't recognize some things until a few years ago. I was like, I wonder why my dad never ate. We'll sit down at the table and we'll sit there and have dinner together, but he never ate. And I'm sitting there saying, I didn't think about it when I was younger. But then I got older, I was like, he never ate because it was either him or me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that sounds like you pulled a lot of things from your childhood experience. Do you have a relationship with your father?
Uh, my father, unfortunately, is no longer with us
Okay.
either. He passed in 2009. Um, we eventually developed a relationship by the time I was maybe a sophomore in high school. we started to develop a relationship. I think, of course, just the youthfulness of them when everything went down. It's just hard to comprehend that. It's hard to own what that really means. And so there was probably some communication breakdowns there. Um, I don't know the full story. That's why I try to do better, like with my children, in sharing my story, because
Uh-huh.
that's important for especially your children to know, so those things can pass on and share just the richness of everyone's story, because everyone does have one. I'm an advocate for people sharing their story. Everybody has a voice. There's different pieces of the puzzle that I have of my dad's story. I don't have all, but there's pieces. I wish I had more. But by my sophomore year, we developed a relationship, and at least he was able to have a relationship with my two boys. Before he passed, he never got to really spend time with my daughter, but at least my two sons were able to meet him, and he would do things like take them to the Bats games or do different stuff with them, which I think helped him feel better from the lack of being able to be there and do that with me.
Right. Right. You know, as a young parent like that, it's just difficult.
It's
You know,
difficult.
I could only imagine what would have happened had I had gotten somebody pregnant at 16. I
Mhm.
mean, I was just really learning how to tie my shoes, you know, so to really have to have the space to where you were open to reconciling and allowing that relationship to develop, because you know a lot of times, um based off of the narrative that is written, could really determine how that relationship goes because of the whatever was said. And so it sounds like
Mhm.
that your mom did a good job at letting you form your own opinion as you.
She did.
Yeah.
She never really bashed. I can't think of really anything she would say that would make me turn against him or to feel some kind of way. I believe there are certain actions that he displayed that caused me to put up a wall and a barrier for a little bit, honestly. Because there would be times I can vividly remember like getting dressed, thinking I'm cute. I remember this one time, I think this broke it right here. I had 2 ponytails. Maurice, I thought I was cute, I had 2 ponytails slicked out, had the baby hair ready to go. Had on this nice little outfit with some red suspenders. I this outfit and everything, I just felt like this is the best because he was supposed to come pick me up. And so I'm like, "We're gonna have a good day," thought I was cute, everything. And I sit there and it started getting dark, and I'm sitting there and I was on the porch, and then I would come inside and look out the door, and he never came. And I think that took it for me as a young girl. It broke my heart, because that wasn't the first time. But for some reason, that time was so important to me because, like I said, I vividly remember like how I looked, everything, because I was ready and I was just done. I was like, I'm done with him, and I probably had to be around 10 at that point. I'm done with him. I don't want to talk to him no more. Da da da. And then, like I said, probably like 16, he showed back up, conversated. I think what opened the door a little bit more is because he was like, "Well, Imma buy you a car," which he did. He kept his word for the first time.
Mm,
So that let me crack the door because I was like, "Okay, he came through with what he said." So it cracked the door. And it was only God. I cannot take any credit, but it was only God that healed my heart when I went to college. Because when I went to college is my whole probably God encounter experiences that I had, outside of my relationship with going to church with Granny. Like that's when I had my I know that I know God is real encounter in college. And God had to touch my heart, and all of that resentment and hurt that I had went away, and I was able to have a healthy relationship with my dad, um, and see him as a living soul, to see him as a man. And that was the only time I was able to look and say, "Well, if you were 16, how would you," to see his story from another lens and not, "Oh, he hurt me, da da da." And I really started to feel compassion for him
mhm.
and his journey. And that was God. That was God. I gotta give him praise for that because I really don't think I would have been able to do that in myself because I was very resentful and hurt. But I could then see him in a different way.
Empty promises will, that's the quickest way for you to not be my friend.
Oh.
Because on the flip, my mom used to do the same thing. I'm dressed, ready to go. I'm sitting out there. And for me, it seemed like hours. And it may have only been 30 minutes, maybe an hour at the most. Um, but today, to this day, I still have residue from that. If you tell me you're going to do something and you don't at least let me know that you're not going to be able to do it, yeah, you suspect to me already. Yeah, we can't. Yeah, like
Yes. Yes, that's a big one. That's major for
yeah.
me too.
So because
So
that was my next question. Like, since that was a trauma scar, we don't think things like that create trauma. Well, I can't think, I can't say that, but that is a scar that created a trauma that allowed you to interact a certain kind of way when it came to people not being a person of their word.
that's right.
How did that transpire as you did you found Christ at early age?
Yeah,
Like,
I was 20. Um,
okay.
I was 20. It was when I was in college. Um, and I think I was just kind of fed up with the cycle of things that I was probably doing or engaged in or letting happen and not really wanting to do it, but just going along with it and just got tired.
Mhm.
And so I was just searching for something different because I knew there had to be more. There was just like a longing, like, this is not it. Like, really? This is not it. And so I went to a church there locally in Danville and I was never the same. I mean, even that service when I left, because I went with who is still my very good friend, my closest friend. She lives in Atlanta, but I went to church with her and I told her after church, I said, I want what they have.
Mm, okay.
Because I just knew there was something different in it and it hit home with what I felt like I needed. And lo and behold, guess what? The message, this is the kicker for me. The message was searching for love in all the wrong places.
Okay.
And I said,
Okay.
why is this person in my business? I don't know them.
and, and so when those words are jumping off the page and they smacking you across the face and stepping all on your toes, you kind of like, who he been talking to that know me?
That's right. That's how I felt. Literally. I was like, they don't know me. What is he saying? It was the message specifically, I feel like was for me. And so I was like, God, thank you for just giving me a word. And just to see the individuals that were joyful about serving God and the praise and worship and everything. I was like, I want what they have. And like I said, I just never been the same. I
So you got
never turned back.
saved
Never turned
at
back.
20,
Hmm.
and you've been going hard since 20.
Yeah.
Like, there was no get saved again. It was a one-time deal, and you've
Yeah.
been signed, sealed, delivered since then.
Since then. Since then.
O-
Since
o-
then. That was
Okay.
that God encounter I was telling you about. Like that was my know that I know moment. Like I knew that he was real. So even throughout the years, any hardships or any struggles that I may have encountered, it never would take away that stance that I had because I was like, he's real in my life and I can't deny that and I can't turn from that at all. And so just like my mom, so once again, it goes back to my mom. I feel like the roots that and the things that she helped ground me in let me have that fortitude through the grace of God. Like, no, we forge through things. We don't quit. We don't give up. We don't bow down. And so couple that with the power of the Holy Spirit and the grace of God and all that, unstoppable.
100% agree with you.
Yeah.
100% agree. Um, it, again, our stories
Mhm.
parallel. I
We
didn't.
When we met, we knew we was
Yeah,
siblings from other parents. We knew we was siblings.
I'm sitting there like, okay, you make your hair stand up on my arms and everything. I'm like, okay. So I lost both of my parents as well. I
Mhm.
lost my mom. I lost my dad in 95,
Okay.
94, 94, and we were super tight. And then I lost my mom in '03. Let's see. Isaiah was born '03. No, he's born '05. Lost my mom in '04. So I understand that journey and the healing journey. And this is what I just want to encourage you in on that. It is a process to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And there are moments where you are all you have is moments where the grief hits you harder than it normally does. And those are the moments that God just wants you to crawl up in your lap, in his lap, and just be wrapped in his arms, because nobody can take that away. Nobody can speak to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I was the only person in my circle who didn't have either parent. So when it hit me, when the grief for both of my parents would hit me, I ain't had nobody to talk to because could nobody relate. Everybody that I knew, that even people that were older than me, still had at least one parent. So it was one of those things where I had to process through this grief through just trusting that God is going to keep allowing me to put one foot in front of the other. So one foot in front of the other. So I just want to encourage you. I'm pretty sure that initially it was very, very, very difficult. Now you can look 4 years into it and see that it's not as difficult as it was back then. Not saying that the journey is still not hard. I look back, I'm saying 1994, 95 is when my dad passed. I am sitting here saying, like, wow, I'm still here, because there's a whole bunch of stuff that that drove me into certain places. And then it's amazing that you step into the presence of God and you understand the presence of God, and you've been walking with God ever since. I got saved at 25. So, if you watch Freaknik the movie, you probably see me in there, because I was at Freaknik in 1993 wilding. But you went to Freaknik?
Well, I got Freaknik in there before I got saved.
Oh, come on. Okay.
We might have been there at the same time.
We might have been
93.
93. I was up in that thing on a whole nother. We came
level.
from Indiana State. We went from Indiana State to Atlanta, and we partied from Thursday to Sunday. Oh, we didn't even get off the highway. We were still on the highway. Folks was making drinks out of vans and dancing on cars. It was the most fun experience that I had ever. Yeah. it was just good fun, college fun stuff.
It was good college fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, that's what we did. It was my freshman year. So it was the 93, 94 school year for me. That we just jumped in the car. Somebody on campus was like, yo, y'all want to go to Atlanta? It's Freaknik. We was like, let's do it. Man. It was that spontaneous. Like,
that's kind of how we were. We were, it was before you had an age limit to rent cars. So we hustled and we rented us a car. And honestly, I don't even remember how we put gas in that thing or how we ate, or I know we had a room, just all of us slept in one room. And
that's how you do it. You make it work.
We weren't worried about nothing other than, okay, we got to at least eat breakfast, because we gonna find somewhere that's gonna be cooking and that's gonna be giving us some food. And a couple of my homeboys, two of my homeboys had just crossed Alpha, and one of my homeboys had just crossed Kappa. And so I was just riding, just rolling with them. So it was what it was. So
good times.
It was good. It was good times. But I do want to encourage you, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And and I didn't really realize how many people lives I touched through those situations. Like my dad was murdered, so I can relate to you from that standpoint. And then my mom died of natural causes, so I'm on both ends of the spectrum, right? And just to be able to say, hey, I understand and I can relate, and this is what I did to help people process through that is, just, you're still here.
Still here.
You're still
Oh,
here. So how long you been married?
that's good. Wow. You put me on the spot.
Uh-oh. You should
24. No, I know, right? I'll get on Gary if he pauses. 24 years. The 21st of this month.
Oh wow. 24 years.
Yes.
We
So
got
it
married
was
on the
in
21st of
April
next month.
21st of 2001, and that was actually Thunder over Louisville. So
Okay.
it was perfect. So even our guests that came in from town, it was great because they were able to experience our wedding and reception, and then they went to Thunder over Louisville. So it was good. We said the fireworks was for us that day.
Yeah. we paid for that.
Yeah, that was for us. Yeah, in 2021. Yeah.
Wow. 24 years. Now,
So wait a minute. 20. See, I'm messing it up. It's 2020 because it will be 24 years this month.
24 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
y'all got
2020
married in 2000.
in 2000. What am I saying? Did I say 2020?
You said 2020. Eh,
Bless her.
It's
Bless
okay. I
her.
mean, math be mathing, but
Bless her. 2000. It will be 24 years this year. Because and I had to think about it because next year it will be 25. And no, I'm getting this all wrong. Gary will get me. Wait till he see this. He gonna tear me up. He gonna
ah,
he gonna turn me up. Okay, scratch everything I said. Excuse me,
okay.
people. This is brain fog. It'll be 23 years this year.
23 years.
It was 2001.
2001. Okay.
I was correct. And the reason I'm calculating is because next year I'll be 50. And I was like, wow, we've been together like half of my life. And then he and I were talking. I was like, no, because when I turn 50 next year, it'll be 24 years.
Wow. Okay.
But it's pretty much almost half my life.
You know, again, our stories are so parallel. We will be married 21 years on May of next month.
Wow.
And I could say that like I've been with my wife longer than I was in my parents' house. Like, man.
Yeah.
So did you have an
Let's
example of
ride
what a
together.
wife was like like when you got married, what was like did you have the example of how to be a wife, or did you have to go to the school of hard knocks and figure that thing out just like most of us had to?
I think a combination of both because my grandmother was integral part of me seeing some great attributes and what things look like. And I just admired certain things about her and things that she did as far as like cooking for her family and everybody coming over on Sundays. The love that she showed everybody, like she had no respect to person, like in her bones. If you came over, you were loved. If it was a holiday or if it was Christmas, she was an Avon representative. So if you came over and she didn't have a gift, she was gonna find a gift because you was gonna get some Avon.
Take this lipstick.
Yes, you was gonna get some Avon. Yes. She's emotion. Yeah, she was just so giving and the way that she just loved her family. Um, I picked up on a lot of that. And I also picked up on a lot of that from seeing the times that I did go to my father's parents' house. I think my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother were similar because I would see so many things that they would do alike.
Hmm.
And I just gravitated to those things and picked up on it. And then just to see my mom was real independent. Like my mom was married, was she married 3 times, I think? So I just picked probably in each marriage, I picked up things that, maybe she kind of did. Um, some of it may not have been good in the sense that my mom was very, very independent. And so, when you're coming together as a unit, you got to balance it out just a little bit. And then I shared with you earlier how my grandfather raised me. And I remember one time, just as far as the discipline part that he would teach me, one time we were in his front yard and I was frustrated because I was getting older at this point. I'm like probably 14, 15. I'm like, I'm getting tired of getting up early, cutting grass. You treat me like I'm a dude. Like I was getting an attitude because I was starting to feel myself because I was getting a little older. And I kind of bucked at him a little bit. I was like, why you keep doing this? Why you keep having me get up early and da da da? And I remember so vividly, he looked at me with a very stern eye and a very authoritative voice and said, because you're going to never depend on a man. So think about a young girl hearing that from a male. That stuck with me. And so our first 3 years was a little rough because I was misindependent from stuff that I saw, from
Mm-hmm.
um, strong woman, but just learning to balance it out. Um, And then because my granddad told me that, it's kind of like I was married but separate because I was still like, yeah, I'm doing my thing and I'm with you, but I don't need you type of persona.
Uh-huh.
It was pretty
Uh-huh.
rough. But it took, a come to Jesus moment. And once again, the Lord just showing me you can't be like that. Are y'all gonna be married or, living together and single? Where are you going with it? And so I had to do some work on me by not letting him in certain ways and let him actually display the love and the role of provider and protector
Mm-hmm.
that is just innate in him. That's what he's such a good man. But I bucked that the first 3 years, and it was all because of what I was taught and what I saw and being so rough and tough and all that stuff and strong. I still want to be that, of course, but there is a balance. There's a
Yeah, there's
temperament.
a balance.
Yeah, there's a temperament with
Yeah.
it. I had to learn that. I had to learn that.
Yeah. A- And well, I had my question. Um, when God started to show you and reveal you, when he started to peel that onion back and he started to reveal things in the mirror and you started to see things that you attach to your identity, and
Mm.
he started to um tell you those things were not the things that he needs you to have. How easy was that? What was that journey like? Because I ain't gonna say how easy it was, because it was attached to your identity. How much pushback did you give God in when he started revealing those things to you?
A lot. I'll tell you, it took about 3 years. It's like a 3-year journey. 'Cause it was hard. It was a major adjustment for me to let my guard down. And now I'm honestly thinking about how the role of my father probably played in that as well. The not showing up and feeling like I could trust someone. And so it was hard for me to trust that Gary was who he was and he would fulfill what he said. And he did all the time, but I still had that guard like, let me not get too excited or let me not get too trusting. Because if they don't show up, you need to have your backup or you need to have what you're gonna do. And so that made it hard to line up together because
Mm-hmm.
I still always had my B plan. I always had my plan outside of what was supposed to be our plan. And so that just took a while. It took us kind of bumping our heads a little bit along the way from not seeing eye to eye on certain stuff, but we were committed to work through it.
So the undercurrent of disappointment is what was really was the what you had to process through.
Yeah.
And when you, and so I get it when you, because you don't want to depend or trust anybody, especially when the scar comes from the younger age and the scar grows as you grows, right? So it didn't stay small, you grew, it grew. And so when you transition into your marriage, it was the undercurrent. And so when God started to peel that onion back, you like, okay, God, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was important. I like the way you phrased it, when God showed you or revealed you to you. I think that's integral to highlight because a lot of times in marriages we'll look at and say, well, change him.
Right.
Lord, you need to work on him or her, and it's like,
Uh-huh.
well, what is it? about, me, and I had to really take that introspective look, not change him, he needs to do this. No, well, there was really some things that I needed to change. Not to say that he didn't have stuff he had to work on for himself, but there was some things for me to be a better woman, a better, wife, a better mom. I had to work on some things.
And then you have children. And
Yes.
then what and once you have once you started having children, what was the what was the example that they were seeing, like, as because you found God, you started moving, you had a real encounter, a real relationship. So from the start of your marriage, yeah, everybody has those things because you're taking two and becoming one, and now you're parents. Did y'all have the same uh definition of parenting, that, or was that something else that you had to work through when it comes to this is how I desire to raise, and he said this is the way that I desire to raise? Was that friction? Was there friction there?
Actually, no, that actually works really well. I think
Okay.
we talked it through in advance and had a lot of similarities in our approaches and what we desire to see. Um, and I think for us having two different journeys really helped us bring in some aspects that strengthened what we wanted to be as our parenting model. Because my husband came from, his parents were together, and I believe, I think he said when he was maybe about 7 or so, they got a divorce. So he was able to see parents together for so many years, and then the parents divorcing, and but still being close, being great co-parents. So he had that story. I didn't have that story. So when I was able to share my story, and we put and mesh those encounters together and what we didn't want to do based on both of our backgrounds,
Right.
I think it created a great mix to raise our children.
Wow. That just killed the next five questions that I had. No, I'm just playing, but because that is it's difficult because I was raised a certain way and my wife was raised a certain way, and when we raised our son, that became the issue
Mhm.
because we didn't have a definition of parenting, and up until probably a couple of years ago, I mean, he 18 now, we
Yeah.
still, you know, and we still kind of a little bit on parenting, but
Mhm.
that's amazing that y'all were able to do that. Just shows a sign of maturity at a young age. Like that's awesome because that was a very difficult hill, and I know a lot of people that's a very difficult hill for. So to be able for y'all to be able to iron that thing out on the front end and go, that's good. So as y'all parenting, y'all trying to figure out life, what was one of the things you that that almost made you want to quit? What was something that in this process that you look and say, "Ooh, I mean, I was on the edge at the cliff, toes hanging over, and I didn't quit." What was something in your life that you can look at and speak on?
Yeah. From like a marriage standpoint or just in general?
In general, just
In
just
general.
in general, yeah.
Wow, that's a good, why you throw it on me? That's a good question. Um, I will say this from a family and marriage perspective. Um, I think one thing for us that did make us at odds at one point, and we had to really work through that, was no, there is no cookie cutter for the whole parenting thing. So it is always a navigation and growth. Like our kids have taught us more about ourselves than anything. Just
Mhm.
walking through it and seeing them grow up, and then taking those perspective checks and like, oh, we can do this better. We can approach this better with them. They taught us so much, so much. But one time. I will say this for people who may be watching this, and I think this is a great nugget from our life experience. Never allow ministry to come between your marriage. And so for us, when you asked that question about what made you quit, I think one time in our life together, our children, our boys, because our daughter wasn't here, our boys were younger. They had to be maybe 5 and 6 years old, something like that. And this was our roughest like argument, our adult conversation, I would say. And it was over ministry. And that was an eye opener for me. It was another look inside and like, okay, you ministry is supposed to bring families together, not split
Right.
families up. So that was one of those moments that we was like, yo, if we don't get this together, we might throw in the towel right here because we're not gonna let this tension be in between us over ministry.
I,
And
I
so we had
get
to
it.
do a check. We had to do a check and come back and realign some things because that wasn't, yeah, that wasn't good. And I
I
don't think
get
that's
it.
fair. I don't think that's fair to ministry when ministry is supposed to reconcile. That's our ministry, is the ministry of reconciliation. And it's first with our family. So it should not be tearing up our family.
Mm, yeah, I could really take that, and I'll just say this because again, parallel stories.
Mhm.
Uh I was having an affair on my wife with the church.
That's good.
So I almost lost my marriage doing the work of the Lord
Ooh,
and not really recognizing the Lord of the work. So
yeah. Yeah.
I,
And that's
I
why I told
totally
you
get it.
we're
Yeah,
siblings, period.
we are.
We
You
gotta
my sister.
you
Yeah.
are, you my brother. I'm telling you, because it was the opposite. Like I was ministry, ministry, ministry. Like that was my and my husband was just getting tired of like, what are you doing? And so I just had to have another, pause moment and really look at it and be like, wow, ministry is my family. That's my first ministry. So why am I going so hard for this and that? And at the end of the day, when it came down to it, this and that didn't love me back.
Woo-wee.
So we gotta get into
Hey,
something because hey,
I'm gonna save those questions that I want to because I want to dig into that, but I don't want to do it on here. I want to bring you back and talk to you from a church hurt perspective.
let's do it.
Yeah, because I think that is definitely everything that you got attached to that and everything that you want to say about that people need to hear.
Yes.
And I think it's going to change lives. But I don't want to make this about that because this is that
That's
is
a
a
whole
whole
nother
nother it's a whole nother story. So tell me something right now. What's your mission? What has God purposed you to do in this season of your life?
Oh, I'm so excited about it because I feel like to that point of beginning to see that family was my first ministry, I withdrew from a lot of things to make sure that I was caring for my sons. And then when my daughter came along, that we were there and present and making sure that they were served well, still being active, in certain ways in ministry, but not like I was going hard and neglecting my family. And in that process, I learned that um, my purpose and what I'm here in the earth to do is to embrace, empower, and elevate leaders. And it speaks to just even my life journey as well and the scenarios that I've had to be in, not wanting to be there, but you said it best earlier, how sometimes gotta put you somewhere. Look, what you telling him what you're not gonna do, and then you end up in those very scenarios. And because he's working something in you and he's building a character for what he has for you to do. And all of that came through moments of not being embraced, moments of not being empowered, moments of not being elevated. And so God was just showing me, like, I'm showing you what not to do. And then with that same energy, that same drive, that same passion that you've given in these areas, you're going to do that to help embrace someone else and empower them. and elevate them. And the elevation part is key to me because I think sometimes we think that some people will always like be with us, and what he has shown me over time is they're not. You elevate, you go. And I'm a visual learner. So I thought of it kind of like an elevator. There are people that may, when I come down on ground floor, I'm embracing you. I'm open the door. I'm meeting you where you are. I want to hear your story. I want to know I want you to be unmuted. I want you to be genuinely yourself, unapologetically.
Mhm.
What are you? I'm embracing you. I'm not changing you. I'm not putting you in a system, and that will get into our discussion as well when we talk about it. I'm not putting you in a system or a box to create this ready-made version of you that I've envisioned. No, I'm embracing you for who you are right there. And I can do that with so much love and passion is because that in many situations has not been done for me. But I didn't become bitter. I became better
Uh-huh.
to be
Uh-huh.
able to serve someone else. So to embrace them, like that elevator, you open up, like, hey, come on in. Then you pick what floor you want to go to. If you want to go to floor 2, I'm with you to floor 2. Let's go. We're gonna
Uh-huh.
we're gonna make sure you got what you need. I'm ready to share what I have um freely because it was freely given to me. If you want to go to level 6, let's go there. But when the door opens and you ready to get off, that's cool. That's your elevation. We need you to go do what you're supposed to do. Go
Mhm.
be empowered and elevate and be what God has called you to be. And so that's important to me because that came from another space as well that we'll get into to where there was no push, there was no go. It was this, kind of like stay here, stay here.
Stay comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. It's like, no,
Yeah.
there has to be a go. Where's the sending? Where is the elevation? Where's the activation of what supposedly I was empowered to do? And so
I
I intertwine that into my business because I think that's important for people, especially young people. When I work with teens and families, my whole goal is to embrace them where they are, to empower them, to meet their need, and to elevate them to their next.
so speaking of business, share what you do. What how are you impacting this through your business?
So, God is so good because after my mom passed in 2020, I really began to think about, what is life? When we think about our story, like what is my passion? What is it that I really want to do? And time just presented itself, and opportunity presented itself in the latter part of 2021 for me to leave my government job that I loved. I did not leave there because I didn't enjoy it. I loved my job and I was pretty comfortable there.
Mhm.
Really comfortable, benefits comfortable, right? So to
Oh,
take
hey,
the
benefits.
yeah, yeah, all of that, very comfortable. But to take the leap that I took, I'm trusting God in that process. And that leap was comprised of moving forward with my nonprofit organization that was given to me back in 1995. Olive Tree Resources. Like God gave me the name, everything, mission, all that. And so I was able to do it full time. So I left my job and started that full time. I was doing it on the side here and there, but to go fully with it has been a journey. It has been awesome. I'm seeing the growth and the benefits of taking that leap. Um, so in that services for Olive Tree, we provide counseling services, preventive maintenance counseling services for teens and families, training services. We have mentorship for teens in programming that helps them enhance kind of like their life vision and goals. Once again, that empowerment piece. And then we do mediation for families. I think for people to have their personal power to resolve conflicts is
Mm,
integral, very
yeah.
important. Um, it will be utilized more definitely in the future because people just need to understand what that looks like for them and not allow a system, the government, a judge to determine that for them. They can take that personal power through mediation and resolve various situations in life. I always tell people they are the solution. So when you help people see that, then you gain your power and you don't lend it. So that's what we try to do at Olive Tree Resources, social services. Um, so those are our core three components there: counseling, training, mediation. And then I have the for-profit side, which is ALS LLC. That's my for-profit side where I strive to get like government contracts and work with corporations to do trainings through that side. This is my community-based side, and this is like my side to sustain.
That is, and she's doing some amazing work. I sat in, actually, quick story. We met at a training that we were both at last summer for a youth event, and she came in and did a personality assessment on based on colors. And it was very well received by everybody in the room. I'm not about to just put it on them young people because I was in there checking my color and I'm like, hold up, let me. I'm kind of two colors, and so she did it.
I think your son pegged you pretty good though.
He did. He did.
He
He
did.
he he he, he did. He's and so we met, and from there we actually just kind of connected. But she is doing phenomenal work. She is touching a lot of lives. She is it on the scale of, if you just hear the areas of that she's working in, and you know that every area she named has a issue. So she's in these areas where there's not a lot of people, especially people of color, that are in these spaces doing the work that she's doing at the level that she's doing it. So um I'm gonna put your website and stuff up, and so people can check you out.
Awesome.
Um, so what would you tell somebody right now that's on the verge of tapping out and quitting?
Give yourself permission, because sometimes we do have to do that. We think we don't, especially when things are in a whirlwind and they're out of control. There's this subconscious thought as if we don't have that ability. Um, but give yourself permission to rest.
Mm, okay, give
Give
yourself
yourself
permission.
permission to rest. Because when you take that rest, there's something about that, kind of like that quickening to get back in the game. Just get back in there. But a lot of times we just kind of keep going and we don't find that reset. But I think the rest is where the reset comes. Um, but you have to give yourself permission to do that, um, so that you
That's
don't
a,
give up.
I
You don't
think
give
the
up.
terminology that you're using is key, right? You said you got to give yourself permission. Like, you have to resolve within yourself that you have permission to do that, and yourself has to say it's okay
Mhm.
because I have permission to do that. So that, I think those are very powerful words, and it is amazing what you can do. Like, if you're in that space and you're not giving yourself permission, everything is just clouded. But once you give yourself a permission to rest, the
Mhm.
smoke settles and the dust clears, and then, like you said, you can start to get back in the game, because you can see what pieces you don't need, what pieces you do need, what pieces are hurdles, what pieces you just been holding on to because you don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So I agree with her. Give yourself permission to be able to just settle down and rest. I have one last question for you, and this is a introspective uh, question.
Uh-oh.
So, what is something that you didn't pay attention to early on that you had to learn the hard way?
Wow. See, you do the hard question at the end. Wow. Something that I didn't pay attention to.
Early on that you had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Ooh. I think probably a couple things, but one I would say is readily just being like maybe just trusting to everybody off the bat and not allowing just the time of knowing, getting to know. So to your point, which I appreciate you for allowing me to be on here and let's just have an open conversation and sharing my story, but taking time to even like hear a person's story or to hear a little bit about them opposed to just easily jumping in and being like trustworthy off the bat with like everybody, no matter what. And I feel like when I was younger, that's something that I did just all the time in my zeal and sometimes in my just being naive in certain areas that I just did. And that caused a lot of heartache along the way. But then if I look back, I'm like, well, if you would have took time, if you would have slowed down and not have been so zealous and took time to learn a little bit more about the person, and maybe even a little bit more about yourself before moving forward with something, there wouldn't have been so many like hurdles that I had to jump and knock over and then get healed a little bit to get back up
Right.
over the next hurdle.
Right.
Um, so I think that's one thing that I would go back and probably tell myself, just slow down a little bit.
So not giving people access, easy access,
Easy, that's a good
without
one.
without vetting them first.
Yeah.
I think that is an amazing thing. And when you can look at that and say, I gave too many people who didn't value me and who didn't deserve to have access to me access. And then I had to process out of everything that came along with that. I think um, that is something that you can look back and say, man, I would save myself a world of hurt if I would have did that. Yeah, so,
Ooh,
hey, that's some good introspective insight to yourself, and I appreciate your time and you hanging out with me. You got anything else you want to tell the people?
thank you. No, I feel like this has been very fruitful. I appreciate you allowing me to be on and just sharing and us just talking and hitting certain points that hopefully are edifying for individuals to gain from.
Well, you heard it here first with Miss April Starks. I'm your boy C. Maurice Ball. I love you like a play cousin, and I'm out. Peace.